today is going to be on standard operating procedures for emergencies. Now, when you think of an emergency, what is an emergency? Some emergencies, things may be an emergency for one person that is not an emergency for someone else. Today we're going to talk about several different things. Some could be emergencies, some may not, some are important, but we still need to discuss them and be trained and be prepared for what we need to do in case these items or these things pop up or while we're on campus or anytime, to make sure that we are prepared for them and know exactly what to do. So preparing for an emergency, how can you prepare for emergency when you don't even know what the emergency is? It's kind of hard. So do you panic? Some people panic, some people don't. Some people can just ride right through it, know what they're doing, have no problems. But you need to make sure that you're prepared for whatever situation may be coming up and know what to do when things do arrive. Don't panic. Stop. Think about what you're going to do. Think about what you need to do. Think about what's going to happen and what the situation is, because they're all different. Some people, when they come across something, some people, when they see blood, they panic. Some faint. See a needle, they faint. They scream. And that's, to me, that's not an emergency, but that's just the way different people react. Different people react different to different things. So you need to make sure that you stop, don't panic, and think about what you're going to do. When you have an emergency situation in your campus, always contact your field supervisor. Just make sure that your field supervisor is in the loop, knows what's going on your campus. Sometimes it may not be anything that you feel like is that important, but your field supervisor needs to know what's going on your campus. So if something happens later, then supervisor is asked by Robin or Karen or anyone else, hey, what happened on your campus today? Supervisor is going to be able to explain what happened on campus that day and be able to take care of business. If not, you don't communicate with us and let us know what's going on your campus. We're not going to know how to help you and to give you the things that you need for whatever situation you may be in. Before an emergency happens, make sure that you contact your principal in your front office, or some of you don't deal with your principal, some of you deal with your assistant principal, some of you deal with the secretaries, some deal with people in the building, not necessarily the principal, because a lot of times the principal will designate someone in her staff to oversee the cafeteria and make sure the cafeteria is running correctly and things like that. So make sure you know who your contact person is, because that contact person is going to be important for you to communicate with and let them know what's going on in our kitchen. Let them know, and then let us know what's going on in their part of the building in case we have emergencies that have to do with students and not just our department or in our kitchen area. So make sure you get that information from your principal. The manager will record that information on the emergency ribbon. This is something that was started a couple of years ago. I think it's a great idea. It has all kinds of information in it for you. It has the information here for the emergency procedure. It has the contact person that you need to contact in the front office. So their name would go here in this section right here, whatever your person's contact person is in their office, their phone number, so you can get a hold of them. This little piece has our CISD police phone number on it for any emergency. It has a non-member emergency number on it to contact in case someone is issues that are there. Now, if you happen to go to your campus early in the morning and someone rings your back doorbell and you don't know who it is, or someone's trying to get in and no one's there, you can't contact your principal or your contact person because they may not even be on campus at that time. So this is a number that you can use to contact CISD police and let them know that you need to have them, they need to come out and check somebody on your campus or somebody at the back door for some reason or another. Make sure that you you have this information. Make sure your employees know where this is, because sometimes your employees get to work before you do sometimes, because they are on campus ready to get breakfast ready and you are not there yet. So make sure that they have this information also. This little slip is to be filled out. Make sure that you as a manager fill this out so you have that information on there. Make sure your associates know where it's at, because if they don't know where it's at, they can't use it for any reason. They've got to know where to find the information in order to be able to use it. So make sure all of this is filled out. You also have a spot on here for your supervisor's name and your supervisor's phone number. So there's a few other things that we want to talk about too. This is also in your flip it chart. It's just things to know, and these are things that may come across over your intercom when we have different items that are different things that are going on campus. Sometimes there is a lockdown. Sometimes there is a lockout. You need to know the difference between a lockdown and a lockout. Sometimes you need to evacuate the building, and we don't know where we're going. Don't know where they're sending the students. There's a time that you need to shelter because of some type of hazard or something like that. We've got several schools that are close to railroad tracks. Trains can derail anytime. There's schools that are close to chemical and electrical plants. There's all kinds of things that could happen. You could have an 18-wheeler going down the road or something and have a chemical spill that has to do with hazard and safety. So we need to know what we need to do for all of these different types of emergencies. The first one is a lockdown. Lockdown is something, lockdown, it's tight. No one's going, no one's coming in. No, you don't answer the back door. You don't look at the back door. If your employee is out on a break, they're not getting back in the building until the lockdown is over. We have had that happen in several of our schools at times because something was suspicious outside, or someone had something going on that we weren't aware of, that the building was locked down at times. So once the lockdown happens, the doors are locked, all locked, lights out of sight. No one's coming in, no one's going out for any reason. For students, it means that they move away from sight, maintain silence, and do not open the door. For teachers and our staff, it means that you lock the interior doors, you turn out the lights, you move away from sight, do not open the doors, maintain silence, take attendance. Check, make sure all of your associates are counted for. If you're in the storeroom lockdown, or if you're in the restroom area lockdown, you need to make sure that all of your employees are accounted for. You may have had someone that walked to the front office for a Coke out of the Coke machine, or went to the office to drop something off at the office, or maybe in the restroom, or took their break and went down the road for a break just to get out of the building for a few minutes. They may have went to another campus to pick something up. You need to make sure that you know where your staff are and make sure that they are accounted for in a lockdown situation. Now, once you have a lockdown situation, you're going to be there until the front office says it's all clear, because it is for the safety of the students and it's a safety for the staff. So you need to make sure that you know the difference. A lockdown, doors aren't open, everything's locked, lights out. It's as if no one was there. Lockout. A lockout is secure the perimeter. That's just to make sure that no one's coming in the building. For students, it's return inside, business as usual. For teachers, bring everyone indoors, lock perimeter doors, increase situation awareness, business as usual, take attendance and account for your associates. So it's making sure that the perimeter is locked down or locked out. No one can come in. So once the lockout is in effect, no one comes in. It's to secure anyone that's in the building to make sure that they're safe. And it is also business as usual. You can continue continue to cook, continue to prepare food to make sure that you are ready for the students when it's time for them to come and eat lunch. So it just means walk out, no one's coming in. So if one of your employees have left to go pick up something or go take a break down the road, then they will not be allowed to come back in the building once it is a lockout. Next is evacuate. You say evacuate, where we're going to evacuate to. Well, believe it or not, but we have had campuses that we have had to evacuate at times. Things happen, spills happen. Just like I said earlier, we've got a lot of campuses close to train tracks that and chemical plants that can be have accidents or something happen, and we have to have evacuation. There are times that we have had a bomb threat at one of our schools, and we have had to evacuate. I got a phone call several years ago from a manager at Conroe High School, and they were out in the football stadium because they had a bomb threat, and they had to evacuate the building. It was in the middle of the wintertime. It was cold. It was misting, and they were wet, and they were out there for several hours because they had to evacuate the building because of unknown reasons. There are times that they may have to evacuate the building to go to another campus. Something has happened on the campus that the students are at, and that they are not able to stay anymore. And so therefore the administration would make arrangements for the students to be transferred to another campus. I remember one time years ago out at San Jacinto, we had the lights went out, the AC went out, and it was middle of the summertime, and the buses showed up because we were talking about evacuating the students to another location. And fortunately, maintenance was able to get out there and get fans going from a generator and was able to take care of it for us that way, and we didn't have to evacuate the students to another campus. But in case there is an evacuation, students bring their phones. Y'all know yourself that these days elementary students have cell phones now. They can take their phones with them, make sure that their parents know how to get a hold of them, and they get a hold of their parents. If there's stuff at the school, they don't need to take their binder or their notebooks or anything like that. They're to follow instructions. Teachers and staff lead evacuation to a location. That's going to be a part of our department too, to help get those students to another location if we need to help them do that. Not only that, if we're moving to another location, we may need to be preparing a meal for those students, and we may need to be taking some of that product that we have in our kitchen to another location to help feed those students. We don't know until the situation happens. You need to make sure that you keep up with your associates, make sure you know that everybody's there and where they're at, and make sure that everyone is able to leave and be evacuated from the building. And if anyone is missing or hurt or injured or anything like that, make sure that you notify someone of the injuries. Next one is shelter, hazardous or safety strategy. So, y'all know we live in Texas. We have hurricanes come in all the time that produce tornadoes. We have tornadoes. We have all kinds of things, crazy things going on sometimes in our area. So there's different things to do for different types of hazards. So the hazard is a tornado. So what would you do for safety? Evacuate to a shelter area. But more than likely, what's going to happen is when we have a tornado warning or tornado watch, they're going to secure the students in the building. They're not going to evacuate the building to go to a shelter. If it's too late, they're going to shelter in place. We had to do that several times throughout the years. The students be sheltered in the building, move away from the windows, and shelter in the middle of the building for a tornado watch. Hazmat. Hazmat is still the room. Make sure there's no chemicals going in or out of the room. Earthquake. Drop, cover, and hold. You're going to make sure that you stay in a position that you can protect yourself. A tsunami, could it happen in Texas? Well, maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But for a tsunami, we need to get to higher ground. For teachers and staff for these hazards, lead a safety strategy. Make sure that you are step up, and if students need to be taken care of, taking care of students, you're taking care of your staff and each other, and making sure that you're accountable for your staff. Electricity seems to happen a lot for our district in certain areas. Certain areas it probably doesn't, but out in East County it seems to happen to us all the time out there. There's times that we go a day or two without electricity for some reason or another. Could be the wind just blew the wrong way that day. It happens. So if you have no electricity, you've got food already partially cooked, some food's already cooked. You need to make sure that you're keeping your hot cold. You've got food already in a warmer, or you've got food that you're packaging it to put in a warmer, or it's coming out of the oven and it is ready to be served. Make sure you get that in a warmer as fast as you can. If you have keys to a warmer, lock the doors. The doors can't be open. Keep the doors closed as long as you can. If electricity is not going to be out for very long, that product can be served. A lot of times, you know yourself, sometimes the electricity will go out, you'll be out for about 10 minutes, 15, sometimes 30, and it comes right back on. For what reason? We don't know, but it happens. So sometimes it's going to just go out for a short time. You're going to be able to continue business as normal. So just make sure that you keep your hot foods hot. Now, if electricity goes out for an extended period of time, that's when you need to make sure that you're contacting your field supervisor, because we may have to go with an alternative menu for the day. Keeping your cold foods cold. If you've got food out, you know, carrots, lettuce, things like that, they're okay sitting on the counter for a while, but you still need to refrigerate them. Some things that you may be in the process of preparing as a cold food is a sub sandwich or a chicken fajita salad or something like that. It's got to be kept cold. You need to make sure that that product is put back in the cooler as soon as possible to make sure that it stays at the correct temperature and doesn't lose temperature. So you need to make sure that it gets back in the cooler. If you have to lock the cooler and freezer door to make sure that those doors stay closed if your electricity is going to be off for an extended period of time. Lock the doors. Don't let your employees in there to make sure that your food is going to be secure. If electricity is not restored and for an extended period of time, contact the supervisor. Emergency meals we have those already on campuses that are in our district. What we are using this year is a lunchable instead of emergency sandwiches. It's something that we think that will be better benefit for us in case of an emergency. It will thaw fast and is something that is easy to serve. So it's just little lunchables like you buy at the grocery store, but it's something that we can get to your campus when needed. Cashiers will need to use a roster or alternative point of sale procedure at serving time, depending on what the situation is. Right now, all of our students are free, so it won't be that hard to ring them up. Sometimes the teachers will bring a list of students down that are going to be eating. Sometimes they'll have them come through the line and with their ID cards, but it's going to be easy to keep up with them this year simply because of everyone being on free. So therefore, we won't have such an issue with making sure that everyone is rang up. Managers will need to contact their field supervisor before ringing up meals. We may be able to approve you doing a bulk entry for the day. So make sure that you're contacting your field supervisor and make sure that you get information on ringing up the students if your electricity does not come back home or you're serving breakfast or lunch. You also, when you are serving these meals, we still have to stay in compliance. We still have to make sure that we are offering the students a reimbursable meal and offering the components that we should be offering any other day, whether lights are on, whether lights are off. No water. Why do you think? She said, well, when are we not going to have water? Well, we always have water. Well, no, not always. There have been times that we have had no water in our campuses. When that happens, that's when custodians will provide us with water for our 3 compartment sinks so we can wash dishes. They'll provide water so we can use it for our hand washing to keep our students safe and follow health department guidelines. We must have water to be placed on the stove to bring to a boil, so we were able to get the water hot enough to be able to wash the dishes. Dishes sometimes that are greasy don't get clean in cold water, so you got to heat the water. You also have to heat the water to make sure that you have warm water to wash your hands, because according to health department guidelines, we have to have warm water to wash our hands. So you got to keep a pot of water on a low burner on your stove at all times when you have no water, to make sure that you've got water to wash dishes and to wash hands. This is health department guidelines, not necessarily something that we just come up with ourselves. That's the health department guidelines also. It's already prepared. Food should be placed in the warmer and ready to serve. Same thing if it's already cooked or if it's prepared, doesn't matter. Make sure it's ready to be served to students. If no food is prepared, contact your field supervisor, and you may be able to use a menu with prepackaged foods, or may be able to use emergency Lunchables for the meal for the day, depending on the situation, depending on what time of the day it is. You never know. Something that could happen with no water. Sometimes it's the water heater that will go out. Sometimes it's the boiler. You never know. So just make sure that you contact your field supervisor. Sometimes a meal may be able to be replaced. Sometimes it may not. The next section is contaminated water. Contaminated water. What happens when you have contaminated water? Well, you can't use it because it's going to make you sick. That has happened in several of our campuses several years ago. We had about 3 campuses all out in one area that had contaminated water for some reason. Can't use water at all. Can't use water to wash your hands. Can't use water to cook, wash dishes. Can't do anything. So it's not able to be used whatsoever. When the water is contaminated, you need to contact your field supervisor immediately so we can make sure that things are being taken care of and we have a plan of action. You're not going to be able to use your steamer to cook food products because your steamer uses water to help cook. Your combi cannot be used because it on steam because it has water to cook the product, so you can use your combi, but you just can't use it on steam mode. Can't wash dishes, can't wash your hands. You need to make sure that when you have contaminated water, that you know what signs to put up. There are signs that are made that are colored paper that says a bright green sheet that is in your flippet. You need to take those and put rubber bands around your faucets and put that sign on your faucet so it's not used. Same thing with your ice machine. Your ice machine will have to be emptied and replaced or completely emptied, cleaned to make sure that there's no contaminant water or moisture in there. It's very serious. We could, anything that's in that water like that could make any of the students sick. It could make any of the adults sick. So we've got to make sure that we are following procedure and marking all of those things that they can't be used for hand washing or using the ice or anything like that. Then when you would have to use ready-made foods or already prepared foods to serve for that day. That's when we have the Lunchables that we can use. We have baby carrots that we can use. Apple slices. anything that's prepackaged, and those items we may have to get from another campus to be able to use those for serving for the day. And the thing is too, if it's breakfast, we may have to use something for breakfast also that is prepackaged that we may have to get from another campus if it's not located on that campus. But make sure you notify your field supervisor, and always communicate too with your front office to let them know what we're doing in the way of preparing for the students breakfast or students lunches, to let them know what's going on. No gas. Some of you have equipment that is electric. Most of our campuses have equipment that is gas related. So if you don't have gas, if your gas is turned off, if it goes off for some reason, and you can't cook, then this is another situation where we may end up having to use alternative meals for the Lunchables or prepackaged meals for the breakfast. But most of the time, it's things that can be fixed pretty quick. We do have 1 or 2 campuses, I believe, that are on propane, that have to have propane delivered. And if they run out of propane, can't cook until propane is delivered. So that's another reason why that you won't be able to use the equipment. But most of the time, it's just because the gas has been turned off, or there are times too that we have equipment that is so old until it starts leaking and it has to be condemned and it has to be sent to auction because we have wore the machine out completely and it can't be fixed. So that's when it has to be replaced. But most of the time, no gas, it's just a simple fix. They go out and take care of it. Maintenance is really good about taking care of that for us. Sewage in the kitchen. If you ever have a backup in your kitchen or on your serving line or anything like that, you need to contact Diane Broadman. She is our equipment supervisor immediately. We've got her cell phone number on here and her desk number. If for some reason she does not answer, you need to call your field supervisor immediately. And if the field supervisor don't answer, you need to call the office, the child nutrition office. You need to get a hold of someone and let somebody know that you have sewage backup in your kitchen, because it can be very dangerous. You need to make sure that you're putting a work order in school dude to report it, because what's going to happen is once that sewage backs up in your kitchen, you need to make sure that everything stays sealed. If you have food in your reach-in coolers or in your walk-in cooler or in your walk-in freezer, if the backup is in your kitchen area, it pertains to your freezer, walk-in freezer, your walk-in cooler, your ovens, anything like that. If it is on your serving line, it has to do with your reach-in coolers, your reach-in warmers. All of that food that is out there on that line has to be condemned. If your sewage backs up on your serving line and someone opens up your warmer door or your reach-in cooler door out on your serving line, all of that food in there has to be condemned, and that whole unit on the inside has to be sanitized and cleaned. Once you contact Diane and contact maintenance, someone from maintenance will be out to find out what's going on and why the sewage has backed up, and make sure that they take care of that issue. Custodial will be out to clean your serving line and make sure that it is sanitized and cleaned. You have to make sure that anything out on that serving line, if you have silverware in a container under your serving line, if you have mayonnaise, mustard, ketchup, any condiments out there under your serving line, if you have boats or trays or anything that is not in a sealed bag out there on your serving line, or even if it's in your kitchen under your prep tables or anything like that, it all has to be condemned. It all has to be thrown in the garbage, because all of that odor, once that sewage backs up in your kitchen, that odor is in there and it is contaminated everything in your kitchen in that area. So it all has to be condemned. Once maintenance gets things taken care of and it's not backing up anymore, once custodial has come out and taken care of things and they've sanitized everything and cleaned it all for you, then we as employees of our department of child nutrition, we will also go behind custodians and clean and sanitize once again to make sure everything has been wiped down properly and everything has been cleaned, to make sure there is no contaminants on any of the services that we may be using to serve students or to have anything that we're serving from. It's all got to be clean. It's got to be cleaned properly and make sure it's sanitized, everything. We've got to make sure everything is washed all over again. It could have been exposed to. So it is a big ordeal if you ever have sewage back up in your kitchen. I remember years ago, I got a phone call from a manager that wasn't my manager. She was in another region. She calls me on the phone and tells me she's got sewage backing up on her serving line and she don't know what to do. She knows she's supposed to do something, but she don't know what to do because she tried calling her supervisor and she didn't answer the phone. So she's calling me and asking me. So I start telling her what she needs to do to make sure that she has gotten everything taken care of. This information is all in your fliplet. So all you have to do when that happens, go straight to your fliplet that's hanging at your back door, flip to your sewage in your kitchen, and you know exactly what to do to take care of it. Section is fire drills. We have fire drills all through the campus. Every month it seems like we have fire drills. And it's a good thing to have fire drills. That way students know what to do when there is an emergency. Because believe it or not, there have been times that we have had emergencies in our campuses and they have not just been drills. We have actually had to leave the campus because we have had electrical issues in some of our buildings. So a drill is for practice to make sure that the students know what to do. And it's also practice for you to know what you need to do. When we have fire drills, you have to exit the building also, just like the students do. But for you, it's a little more intense than what it is for students. Students, they just get in line and they just follow their teacher out the door. For you, as employees of the cafeteria and the kitchen area, you've got food in the oven. You can't run out the back door, stay outside the back door for 30 minutes and expect to walk back in the building and your food not be burned. If you've got food in the oven, you've got to take care of it. You've got to make sure that you either turn that oven off, pull it out of the oven, put it back in the cooler, put it back in the freezer, whatever stage it's at in the process of cooking. You got to make sure that it's taken care of. If it's cold food that you're working on, if you're making some sandwiches, if you're making salads, you've got to gather all that stuff up, put it on a cart, put it in the cooler to make sure it's secure, because you don't know how long you're going to be outside that back door, because it may not be a drill. It may be a real reason why you were out that door. Now, once you go out that door for a fire drill, you need to make sure you have a designated area for you and your staff to report to. Several years ago, we had fire drill on one of our campuses, and they knew exactly where to go. Everybody exited the building, started counting for the employees. Couldn't find an employee. Couldn't find her anywhere. Didn't know where she was at. Come to find out, that employee had went to the office to get a drink out of the vending machine, and that's when the fire drill decided to happen. She was escorted out the front of the building and wasn't able to go back to the back of the building where she would exit the cafeteria door with her staff. So the manager didn't know where she was. You need to make sure that you know where your staff is most of the time, so you know if in case of a fire drill or a lockdown or a lockout, where your employees are, to make sure that they know what's going on. Employees, you need to make sure that you're letting your manager know, hey, I'm going to run to the office to give me a Coke out of the cup machine. I'll be right back. Hey, I'm going to run out to the dumpster, or I'm going to go out to my car. I forgot my lunch in my car. I've got money for a Coke in my car. I'm going to run get it. make sure that you let your manager know where you're at in case of any of this happens. So, you know yourself, you may be outside for a fire drill for quite a while. I've gotten several phone calls that manager call me and say, hey, we're outside on the fire trail. We've been out here for 15 minutes already, and we don't look like we're going back in anytime soon. And so you need to make sure that you're communicating that as a manager, communicating that with your supervisor also, because that's going to maybe delay your prep time for your lunch or for your breakfast. Mostly it's going to affect your lunch. So you need to make sure that you are keeping an eye on that and know about how long it's been when you are outside, so you can make sure that you adjust your times for your prep, because it's going to affect your prep time because you're outside. Managers, you need to make sure that you are carrying your cell phones out with you to make sure that you can contact your supervisors. Employee injuries or medical issues. There are times that we have emergencies in our kitchens with our staff or for us. I think the main thing that we have is, as far as injuries for our department, are slips, trips, and falls. Probably cuts, bruises, things falling, people falling, tripping. There have been many videos that I have seen that just the cameras in the campuses just happen to be in the right place at the right time. Ladies tripping on a chair, caught her foot on a chair and tripped and fell. Stepped on a bread rack because she was carrying something and the bread rack was on the floor and tripped and fell on the bread rack. Just tripped over something in the floor or even not anything in the floor. Sometimes I laugh and tease that the floor just sometimes in one spot just reaches up and tries to trip me because I'm not picking my feet up like I should. It happens all the time, and accidents happen, and we know that. But we've got to make sure we know how to assess a accident and how to be able to treat an injury for an employee. You may have one that has hit her head. I remember years ago when I worked out at San Jacinto, one of the ladies had walked in the freezer and was pulling something off of the top shelf. It was a box on the top shelf, and she didn't realize that there was a small bag of hamburger patties on that box of hamburger patties. So when she pulled the box down, the bag fell off and hit her in the head, and she saw stars and ended up breaking her glasses. And she was out, had a big old bruise on her face, and was out for a couple of days for it because of her injury. All kinds of things happen. You've got to make sure that you are prepared. We've had people that have twisted their ankles, twisted their knees, cut their finger, that cut it on the slicers when we were using slicers, cut it on the sun-kissed machine, washing it. All kinds of things happen. I was at home this weekend and I was cutting some lettuce or tomatoes up in the kitchen, and the knife slipped out of my hand, and I'm just dancing, and my dog said I'm going crazy because I'm just dancing in the kitchen trying to make sure that knife didn't fall on my foot, because things like that just happen at times. You've got to be able to assess the injury or the accident, know whether it is something serious, whether it's not serious. We have employees that work for us, and we have students that are in our buildings. They have medical issues. Diabetes is one of our medical issues that we have that can be serious if they are not eating properly like they should, or making sure that they are keeping up with their diet and things like that. So there's all kinds of things that can happen as far as injuries in our kitchen with our employees. Make sure that you assess them. Know whether they can be taken care of with a Band-Aid or a ice pack or something like that. And if for some reason you need to contact the clinic nurse someone's going to pass out. I remember years ago, we had one of our ladies that worked with us. She just looked at us and she said, well, I just don't feel too good. And all of a sudden, she just started buckling her knees, started buckling, and she was fixing to pass out. We grabbed a chair and set her down in the chair. And we went to the office and got the nurse from the office, and her blood pressure had dropped. And so we ended up having to call someone to come and pick her up so she could get medical attention. So you never know what is going to happen. If you need to call the clinic nurse, that's what they're there for. They have a nurse down there sometimes on duty. They usually always have a clinic aide on duty, so you need to make sure that you know to contact them and know their number and have it in your office to contact them. There may be a time or two that you need to call 911. If you feel like someone is in a situation where you need emergency medical attention right then you can call 911. You just need to make sure when you do that you contact the front office and let them know that you have contacted 911 because they need to know that information. So make sure that you are contacting them. Anytime you have an injury or anything like this on your campus that happens with you or your employees, you need to make sure that you're filling out a injury report. Injury reports need to be filled out no matter how minor they are. It is to cover you. If you get cut on your finger and you don't take care of it like you should and it gets infected and then all of a sudden you say, oh yeah, I cut it at work 3 weeks ago, that report should have already been filled out and sent in to our payroll specialist so she can take care of it. So make sure you're filling out the proper paperwork for all of that also. Student injuries or medical issues. We as cafeteria staff, we do not know what students have medical issues, which ones don't. There have been times that we've had students come into our serving line and they have decided to lean on our rail or play on our rails and they have broken and fallen. And students have been injured because of that. Students are running into the cafeteria and slip and fall and get injured. There's all kinds of things that can happen out there on that serving line. We can have fights out there on that serving line, especially in high school or junior high, or even in intermediate. Those kids get out there and just start fighting and having injuries out there on your serving line. Make sure that you are contacting your nurse for anything like that, for medical issues with any of your students. We have students that go to our schools that have medical issues. So we never know what kind of medical issues they have. We need to make sure you're contacting your nurse for that also. Also something too that goes with this is student allergies. That could be a threatening source too, because if they have a severe allergy to food products that we are serving. We have one student that goes to our district that is so severely allergic to peanuts that if a person that has eaten a peanut butter and jelly sandwich talks to her and breathes and she inhales that from just the person eating that sandwich, it can have a serious effect on her and she can go into anaphylactic shock. So you need to make sure that you know your allergies for your students and make sure that they are flagged on your computer, on your POS, and make sure that the students and your cashiers know what they are allergic to and who they are and know how to take care of the situation and know what to feed those students in that case. Also for student, if you feel like a student has a issue that needs to 911 needs to be called, you are allowed to do that. I prefer you go through your front office and through the nurse first, because your nurse is going to know more about the students in the building than what you are. But make sure anytime you contact the 911, make sure your front office is aware that you have contacted 911. Just remember, don't panic in any type of emergency situation, and remember your training. Make sure that you know, and your staff know, to go back to your clip document chart, and it's going to have most all of the information there that you're going to need for emergency situations. So remember, don't panic, stop and remember your training.